Hello everyone, my name is Louis Ruggiero. Welcome to the King Messiah Project. This is part 2 of lesson 2 of a 12-part series titled Refuting Calvinism. The subject of this lesson is God's sovereignty and man's free will. So what have we learned so far in part 1? Well, most importantly, we've learned that God does not decree sin contrary to Reformed theology. We learned that because the God of the Bible tells us that. He tells us that in 3 specific places in the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 30 and 31, Jeremiah chapter 19, verse 4 and 5, and Jeremiah chapter 32, verses 34 through 35. In fact, in the New Testament, James chapter 1, verse 13 teaches that God does not tempt us with evil. So why would reformers teach otherwise? The God of the Bible also promises us through the words of Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 13 that when we are confronted with temptation, that temptation would not be so overbearing that we could not possibly overcome it. That's the God of the Bible. But that is not the God of Reformed theology. The God of Reformed theology decrees all things, including sin, contrary to what the Bible teaches. Now, why is this so important? Well, for 2 reasons. Number 1, if God was to decree every single aspect of mankind's salvation, then why proclaim the gospel message? Romans 1:16, Paul wrote that the gospel has power. There's power in the gospel message. But if God was to decree whether or not a person would accept the gospel message or not, then why preach the gospel message at all? God has already decided whether a person would be saved or not saved. So why even bother? That's the first thing. Secondly, and most importantly, it's all about accountability. If God was to decree the sin, then God himself would be responsible for the sin. However, if God was to permit the sin, then man would be responsible for the sin. The Bible clearly teaches free will. In fact, besides the verses that I just stressed to you, the Bible is littered with evidence of free will. In fact, let me read some verses for you. In Genesis chapter 4, verse 7, this is a mere percentage of some of the evidence in the Bible proving that man has free will. In Genesis chapter 4, verse 7, this is what God told Cain after the fall of Adam and Eve. If thou doest well, shall thou not be accepted. And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. In Deuteronomy chapter 11, verse 26 and 28, this is what it says. Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. A blessing, if ye obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you this day, and a curse, if ye will not obey the commandments of the Lord your God, but turn aside out of the way which I command you this day, to go after other gods which ye have not known. Deuteronomy chapter 30 verse 19 says, I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live. Joshua chapter 24 verse 15. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom ye will serve. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 19 and 20. If ye be willing and obedient, ye shall eat the good of the land. But if ye refuse and rebel, ye shall be devoured with the sword, for the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it. And finally, Hosea chapter 11, verse 4 and 5. I drew them with cords of a man, with bands of love. And I was to them as they that take off the yoke of their jaws. And I laid meat unto them. He shall not return unto the land of Egypt. And the Assyrian shall be his king, because they refused to return. They could have chosen to return, but they refused to return. Once again, it's all about accountability. One final thought. All of us have sinned. Some of us have done some pretty bad things in our lives. How do you think Jesus would react on Judgment Day when we are brought before him and he asks us why we did some of the awful things we've done during our lifetime, how do you think our Lord would feel if we told him that his Father made us do it? Do you think that he would be happy? Put it this way, how would you feel if someone accused your Father of being the cause of all of the terrible sins and evils that others commit? Murder, incest, bestiality, homosexuality, the rape and murder of a child, the starvation and neglect of a child. Wouldn't you be angry? God bless you all.